Britain's great exhibition of the works of industry of all nations took place from May the 1st to October the 11th, 1851. Intended to showcase the industrial and cultural products of the world, it drew exhibitors and visitors from across the globe. The exhibition housed in a vast iron and glass building constructed specifically for the purpose in London's Hyde Park was the Crystal Palace. It stretched 1,851 feet long and 128 feet high. It was built around several elm trees to prevent them from being cut down. So this big elm tree in here, they're saying that they actually built this building around it and several others. After 6 months, the exhibition, the palace was deconstructed and rebuilt in South London, though in a new form. The reconstituted building remained a major landmark from 1854 until 1936, when it burnt down. Okay, and like I said, this building was built of glass and iron, and they tell us it burnt down. And fire is another theme that you will see when we go through, our true history. Fire pops up a lot and destroys a lot of these old world buildings. Very curious, and especially the ones made of glass and iron. And as they said, they moved this. The story is, not that I believe this, but the story is that they built this and then they took it apart, moved it a couple of miles, and then rebuilt it. But when they rebuilt it, they built it as a different building, basically. It was a glass building with iron, but it was a different shaped building. And then it burnt down. So interesting narrative. Every conceivable invention. And this is what, they still have World's Fairs, but now they're pretty much trade shows. But what they were back in the 1800s is they were basically introducing the new world, the new culture, right? The new cult of to the people, and basically showing the new tech that people would be allowed to use. And they showed some tech that then disappeared and was never seen again as well. Exhibits included false teeth, artificial legs, Colt's repeating pistol, a Goodyear India rubber goods. So the introduction of, rubber and what was going to turn into tires, chewing tobacco, right? Tobacco, drugs introduced. McCormick's Reaper, that's for harvesting, right? Harvesting wheat. So farming practices were introduced. And also steam engines and pumps and automated cotton mills. So all these steam, steam was introduced, and steam engines and all that kind of stuff. So what they were really doing was introducing a narrative to the population. This is now the tech we've got. Be happy with it. You now have to work and you've got jobs. This is a deal. And they really were introducing a whole new way of living, much different to the old world. And another point I'll just make is with inventions, the word invention, right, is very similar to the word inventory. And of course, inventory is what they have. When they find these cities, they go through and they get all the old tech and they go and they put it in their inventory, right? They take it away so we can't find it. Put it in their inventory, and then when they want to invent something that they can sell to us, they just go to the inventory. And here we are on the site of Joseph Paxton, and Paxton is the man who designed and built, he's given the credit for building the Crystal Palace. So Joseph Paxton was an English gardener, architect and engineer, and a member of the Parliament, best known for designing the Crystal Palace and for cultivating the Cavendish banana, the most consumed banana in the Western world. And it's interesting that it says he was a gardener, which there's a link to and a story about, and then architect and engineer, but doesn't seem to be any extra information on that, apart from just saying that he was. And if we get down to his story, it says The Horticultural Society's gardens were close to the gardens of William Cavendish. The Duke of Cavendish met the young gardener, Paxton, as he strolled in the gardens and became impressed with his skill and enthusiasm. He offered the 20-year-old Paxton the position of head gardener at Chatsworth, which was considered one of the finest landscape gardens of the time. Although the Duke was in Russia, Paxton set off for Chatsworth. In 1832, Paxton developed an interest in greenhouses at Chatsworth, where he designed a series of buildings with forcing frames for espalier trees and for the cultivation of exotic plants such as the highly prized pineapples. At the time, the use of glass houses was in its infancy. He designed a glass house with a ridge and furrow roof that would be at right angles to the morning and evening sun, and so ingenious frame design that would admit maximum light, the forerunner to the modern greenhouse. So he's given credit to being basically, the inventor of the greenhouse. Now, this is in 1832. Okay, he starts designing greenhouses, and this is one that he designed and built, or is given credit for designing and building. And look at this. This is a greenhouse built from 1836 to 1841 and demolished in the 1920s. Someone demolished this. Look at the glass. It's all curved. Look at this. And I'm not sure, are they individual panels? I'm not sure, but this is a person. So this thing's huge. This is massive. Of course, it's got, look at the doorway. It's got columns, Greco-Romano columns, and portico at the top. So this thing's huge. You could grow trees in here. And this was one of his first efforts at building a greenhouse. Okay, so 1836, and he developed an interest in 1832. So in 4 years, he went from knowing nothing to building that, building this in 4 years. So make of that what you will. The Crystal Palace. The Great Conservatory was the testbed for the prefabricated glass and iron structure techniques, which Paxton pioneered and would employ for his masterpiece, the Crystal Palace. These techniques were made physically possible by recent technological advances in the manufacture of both glass and cast iron, and financially possible by the dropping of a tax on glass in the so that was built for the 1851. In 1850, the Royal Commission appointed to organise the Great Exhibition were in a quandary, an international competition to design the building. And this is another thing. When we go down this path into history, you'll find that all these buildings, these huge, amazing buildings, most of which, burnt down by fire or got demolished, when they were built, they always held a competition for people to design them, just all the time. It's something you will notice. The international competition was held. 240 designs were received, and only 2 were remotely suitable, and all would take too long to build and would be too permanent. And this is another thing. They tell us with all these World's Fairs that they were all built to be temporary, and they build these massive buildings, and then they just tear them down. Paxton's construction partner was the ironwork contractor, Sir Charles Fox. And basically, the 900,000 square feet or 84,000 square meters of glass was provided by the Chance Brothers Glass Works in Smethwick. Okay, 900,000 square feet of glass. And basically, I had to bring in labor from France. The building was 135 meters tall, and square footage on the ground, 71,794 square meters, or 772,784 square feet was the ground, right? The footprint of this building, which is quite big. Okay, so let's have a look at some pictures of the Crystal Palace and the 1851 World's Expo in London. Pretty much, out of the buildings, it was the Crystal Palace. I mean, look at the size of this thing. It's just ridiculous. I mean, just here, you can see like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories high, probably large stories. And then this thing, that's another 3 or 4 on the top. Massive towers for no reason. I think they tell us they're water towers, but just massive, all glass, right? Someone was laying, what they say, 108 of these in one day, 900,000 square meters of glass. And then they don't talk about, all the foundations, all the statues, everything else that had to be done. And on top of that, there was actually a train station underneath this, which they, again, they just neglect to mention it. But there was. So this is a shot from the expo, bunker booth here, octagon. We see these a lot as well. Just everyone filing in. And of course, look at just the stairs, everything's Greco-Romano. Here's a shot, another one. This is just a drawing because obviously 1850 and photography. So we've got more photos of the second one, which is interesting. We don't get many, I don't think we've got any photos of the original one, all drawings. And yeah, look at the size of this thing. Tiny little people. I mean, why? So they could keep trees? I mean, it doesn't make sense to build things this big. Look at it. Everyone actually sitting on the lawn watching something. Yeah, so there you go. So this underneath here, and so this is the original one. This is, okay, yeah, so no, we do have some photos. This is the original, I believe. It's hard to tell. The reason it's the original one, they say didn't have the towers on it. But see underneath here, under these archways, that's where there's a train station. And so this whole platform that this is sitting on, this is a man-made platform that this whole building was sitting on. And they don't talk about that, the foundation, or the train station underneath. But look at the size of this thing. It's immense. And here you go. Here's the train station. So here's the Crystal Palace. And it says the Great Exhibition, and it tells us again after it was closed, they dismantled it, rebuilding it again at the site of Sydenham Hill, where it burnt down in the 1930s. And the intention was to create a winter park and garden for the reconstructed palace. To cater for the expected huge influx of visitors, the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway opened a station serving the area on the 10th of July, 1854, but the station was not ideally sited and involved visitors walking along a 720-foot glass-covered colonnade. The Crystal Palace and South Junction Railway was authorised in 1862 to build a line to Pakenham, blah, 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 reopened in 1865. So very strange stories, right? I mean, look at this building. Again, it looks like a castle, right? They're telling us this is a train station that they built. And then when they built it, put this money into building a castle, not just a little, level, standing place with a little roof. No, they started off big and then they did this and they put it in the wrong spot. So no one used, so no doubt they just knocked it over. And such a similar story that you hear it's just all, it's when you start looking into all this stuff, it's really, they're just taking the Mickey. It's for stupid people.